Ladies and gentlemen, I'm William Spring again with the second episode of Guilty Men. I actually don't exclude women. I'm using men in the old-fashioned sense to mean anyone who's human. But guilty men I'm looking at is those who are responsible, including myself, for the wrath of God down upon Britain. There is a list of people I have in my mind. The first one I gave out yesterday, or not yesterday, day before, on my first broadcast. And that was the Bishop of Chelmsford. Hold on. Hello? 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 Oh, right. Okay. Thanks. I'll carry on. So I'll just repeat. We're dealing with guilty men, giving a list of people responsible for the wrath of God coming down upon this country. And the first guilty man I mentioned was on a broadcast about 2 days ago. That is the Bishop of Chelmsford. Now, the second guilty man I want to deal with today is somebody called Lord David Steele. I just say incidentally that at this program, I've set up a thing called the Anti-Google producing this program. We don't have any funds at all, really. But if you do want to support us, go to the Patreon and put in William Spring. William Spring, like in the season of the year. Now, Lord David Steele is someone I've had a sort of vague connection with, in a sense, in that I remember well, in 1965, I was listening to Really Want to Lament sort of party. Joe Grimond had been the leader of it. I remember seeing Joe Grimond in the House of Commons. But the New Liberal Party that David Steele got associated with was very different from the Liberal Party of Joe Grimond. It has a characteristic of becoming associated with awful organisations like the Abortion Law Reform Association, who saw in David Steele a very major catch. Now, I'll just rush on a bit because and now he's no longer in the House of Lords, and he is a disgraced figure. The reason he's been disgraced is because of his attitude over protecting Sir Cyril Smith, who was another Liberal Lib Dem MP. And David Steele, I'm afraid, according to a committee of inquiry, which is just reported, didn't do his homework, or didn't choose to apply his homework on Cyril Smith, knowing that Cyril Smith was a serial abuser of young children. He nonetheless recommended himself for a knighthood. Very sad. And the committee, which is just reported, says that it was untenable behaviour, whereupon David Steele resigned. But as I said before, I'm going back earlier now. If David Steele disgraced the Lib Dems and the country by his protection of Cyril Smith, he actually did far worse than that by being, as I just indicated, taken up by the Abortion Law Reform Association, which was an organisation founded in 1934 at the time of Hitler, full of eugenics theories. Its object was to stop a backstreet abortion by making all abortion legal. And David Steele, a young 20-year-old MP, or no, 22. No, I'm not sure about that. Maybe he was older than that. Anyway, he was born in 1938 on the same day, March 31st, my birthday. But not the same day. I came along 7 years later. But anyway, as a young man, unskilled in parliamentary procedure, he agreed to take up the abortion law reform from the ALRA. And the abortion law reform bill passed the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Now, at the time, I was a student, and I was well aware there was a disaster now coming down the tracks because of this bill. After the bill was made law, in Birmingham, a group, an organisation called the Birmingham Pregnancy Advisory Service set up under its director, Martin Cole, Dr. Martin Cole, and proceeded to do and has done millions of abortions in Birmingham and all over the country, renaming itself the British Pregnancy Advisory Service. I tried to stop the BPAS as it was, particularly in Birmingham, and I was horrified when it became a charity. I objected to its charitable registration, together with 4 professors from Birmingham University and a number of taxpayers and ratepayers in Birmingham. We submitted a petition to the charity commissions and objected to this. I got a letter back from them saying I wasn't entitled to object of the BPAS as a charity. And I regret very, very much that I didn't appeal this to the High Court, which I should have done. I just accepted the decision. That's a terrible acceptance. That's why I'm to blame as much as anyone else for what happened. Anyway, the BPAS set itself up as become a very successful charity, specialising in the murder and dismemberment of unborn children, gestational age or born alive, whereupon the BPAS kills them. If they can't kill them in England, they go off to Spain to kill them there. They are an absolutely disgraceful, barbaric organisation. But this is the open door that David Steele created when he became an MP. Years went on. I wasn't able to do anything much against the abortion law. Various people did try, though, but notably Sir Bernard Brain, DL MP. He's a great man who every year brought a bill forward to the House of Commons up until his death, more or less. But the House of Commons didn't want to know. The House of Commons is filled with really perverted people. Cyril Smith was at the least of them. During the last election, I was seeking to stand as a parliamentary candidate in Tottenham. The local council, although I had all the names and everything, refused to let me stand. They denied my application. So the consequence was that I went over to Walthamstow to support the candidate there of the Christian election. I well remember this last December, about the 12th of December, I was walking past a house or houses in Walthamstow. All these houses had stickers up supporting the Labour candidate, Stella Creasy, who wants abortion up to birth. That's her policy. Suddenly, out of the house, a big burly man came along and pushed me into the hedge. I was able to fight him off, and he retreated. But that's the type of Labour Party that exists today. That's why they lost the election, because the people in the Labour Party have no moral sense. Now, we go back to this current COVID-19 crisis. The government thinks by throwing money at this that it will stop. Of course it won't. What is needed for it to stop is an act of God, clemency. And we need to show repentance as a nation. We're the ones who've set up this awful abortion racket. We've set up, Tony Blair set up computers in every school so that children could see pornography at all times of the day and night via Google. And that's why I've set up my anti-Google unit. It's a disaster, this country, as well as evil acts against its own population, that is the unborn. This country has engaged in numerous criminal wars in the Middle East and North Africa. When I say Tony Blair, I include in that Cameron. And we can only pray that somehow the church and the Queen and the government will realise just how wicked they have been and turn to God. Because only by turning to God do I believe this virulent plague, which is now upon us, will be stopped. So I hope you will support the anti-Google unit.